Hello adventurers, and welcome back to my channel. I am back at my base camp after my travels, and I thought today was a great time for us to kind of break down some of the differences that I learned over this last trip that might help you in regards to something that a lot of you have been asking. Which one is best, the RoadPro or the Hot Logic? So today I'm going to be showing you a head-to-head of the two of them. We're going to talk about the specs of each, the temperatures, the size, all sorts of things, and then we're also going to cook something, and we're going to see how long it takes to cook in each one of them. I think this is a great way for us to compare the two so that you can get a better point of reference. We'll talk about how much power it pulls off of a power station. We will talk about if things get crispy crunchy or if they're soggy, and we will also be talking about how much they each cost. I will be dropping links to both of these in the description below if you are interested in either one of these and you have been looking at them already. But trust me, both of them are good, just for very different reasons. And let me explain why. We're going to start off with the Hot Logic. The Hot Logic is nice because it's in this little lunchbox style container. It's soft, it's small, it fits in a lot of spaces, and it is available in more than one form. You can use a Hot Logic two different ways, through a standard wall plug or through a 12 volt. They have different sizes, and all of the sizes have both of those options, which is very nice. Now, the interior of the Hot Logic looks like this. It is a mylar style material. It's very flexible, and you have a little compartment that you basically put your food in. It does come standard with one of these little plastic meal prep dishes. However, these are the standard size that you can purchase at most stores. So if you wanted to make freezer ready to eat meals and put them in your refrigerator for travel, you easily could find this particular piece just about anywhere. You don't have to order it specific from Hot Logic. Now, one of the things that I enjoy about the Hot Logic is because it is a smaller case, this all fits inside, zips up, and then you have a fully contained cooking system that you can put just about anywhere. You can use this in a van, you can use this at work. It's going to be a great universal system for most people. Now, the way that this works is it uses this mylar reflective surface and then this little hot plate basically. It plugs in through your 12 volt or your wall plug, and then it starts to heat up this section. As long as the Hot Logic is closed, it will keep that heat in, and it will raise to about 165 degrees inside. Now, what are the pros of 165 degrees? Well, you can heat up food. Heating up food is very easy in the Hot Logic. You can also take foods that are frozen and you can bring them to a nice temperature to be able to eat. And so not only can you heat up just refrigerated foods, but you can also heat up frozen foods. Now, can you cook in this if it only gets up to 165 degrees? Yes, you can. You can make things like eggs, you can cook meats. It's just going to take a little bit longer to do that because the temperature is very low. What can you not do? You cannot bake in the Hot Logic. The Hot Logic does not get up to an internal temperature enough for it to actually bake items. So baking is kind of out of the question with this one. And I've tried a variety of different things to prove this point to be wrong, but ultimately, you can't bake in it. So that's the big thing with the Hot Logic. But now let's go look at the RoadPro and check out some of the specs on it. And then we will be cooking up something delightful in just a moment. But first, the RoadPro. Okay, now this is the RoadPro. The RoadPro is a lunchbox style rigid cooker. It does have a 12 volt plug-in on the side and a little latch that keeps all of the heat sealed in as opposed to a zipper. This is the inside of the RoadPro. You can see that it is, again, a solid foundation all the way around. It has this metallic heating surface that mostly heats from the bottom, with central point being the hottest point, but it does radiate that heat outward from that section, and it maxes out the heat by closing it in and keeping it closed, working more like a true oven, up to 300 degrees. The latch on the front makes everything seal into place, so you don't have any zippers. You instead have this rubberized seal, which holds it in and keeps the heat. Now with this one, they do recommend you use aluminum pans. These little aluminum baking pans are perfect. And I like to also use one of these oven bags just to keep the mess down to a minimum. These are also great for taking out and just enjoying on the road. However, they are a little bit larger than the other system. Now that we've checked out the RoadPro, I think that we could do another small comparison before we start our cooking. First and foremost, color-wise, personality-wise, the Hot Logic definitely has the RoadPro on this one. You can pick out a variety of different colors as well as sizes with this one. And so because of that, it does make it a little bit more versatile when it comes to your personal style. I really like bold colors, so I found this paisley pattern that has all the bold colors, but they also have all of these available. Notice there's some solids in there. There's some other designs, lots of good like personality style things. So if you're wanting to get this for van life and you have a theme in your van, this guy, you can probably find a colorway for it, which is really nice. So for the average person who is just needing to heat and eat or cook basic things, this is going to be great for van life. However, the RoadPro comes in two colors and two colors only. You can see them right here. They're green and black, and that might not be for everybody. Now, are colors going to impact the overall ability for it to work? Absolutely not. But that's just something that I did want to add in here, that you do have a more limited color base whenever it comes to the RoadPro. So if color and theme is the most important thing to you, you're going to want the Hot Logic. If having something that is going to be a bit faster and hotter is more important, you're going to have the RoadPro. Again, you have 165 degrees versus 300 degrees. Huge, huge difference. I wanted to do a side-by-side comparison of the two so you could see the amount of space that they take up. The cooking space in this one and the cooking space in this one is approximately the same when it comes to the overall size. I purchased this one so that it could be a more true match for the RoadPro. So this is one of the smaller Hot Logics, but they do have, again, larger ones. This is the only size that they have in the RoadPro, however. So with that, you can see the side-by-side comparison of the two just for a little bit more reference. And then also from above, something that is nice about both of them is they do have a handle, so you can just pick them up and move them around. Of course, this one has a latch, this one has a zipper, so it is very different on how that they close and keep heat. This one, the soft-sided, uses the Mylar. This one uses the hard-side metallic. This one heats in a plastic container. This one they do recommend you use the aluminum for. So those are the main differences. But now it's time. Let's get to cooking. This is something pretty familiar to the channel. These are just really easy. They come with 2 in a pack, so they're an easy way for us to test out the full potential of the items at hand. Now, another pro, while I'm opening these up to both of these, is that you can plug these in while you're driving down the road to your actual vehicle, and it can cook your food or heat your food while you're on the road. And that's super handy. You don't have to just use a power station or a wall plug in order to achieve something really nice and cozy for you to eat on the road. Okay, we have our 2 little French bread pizzas. I just have to put the lid on this one, and that way it has the most optimization of keeping that heat in. This one you do not have to cover, so that is going to also be a difference. You can make things warm in this, but it does take a little bit longer, I've learned, if you do not cover it. Now, a couple of other things before we get this started. You can actually cook directly onto the bottom of the RoadPro. If you line it with parchment paper, you can do that. On this one, I have found it not to be quite as successful in doing so in my own testing. If you have found it to be successful using it on your own, let me know what's going on and why it's not working in mine. It just doesn't seem to heat as evenly, and especially when something is soft to the touch and slightly still frozen, I end up burning portions, whereas the other parts don't really get as cooked. Now, of course, to get this one ready, we zip it up like so, and then this one is ready to go. All I need to do is plug it in, and for this one I just need to close it down, latch it, and then pull out the cord over here, and plug it in and it'll be ready to go too. Here is our setup for testing. Today we have the Blue Eddy and the Jackery V2. The Blue Eddy is the AC70. I'm going to go ahead and get that turned on. It is at 53% and we're going to hit the DC. And then over here I have the Jackery and it's already at 100%. And I'm going to hit the DC on that too. We're going to give it a moment to start to pull and regulate. For the Hot Logic, it's pulling anywhere between 48 and 55. It's regulating pretty much at 48 right here. On the other hand, is pulling 131 watts. And so that is a higher pull. And so it's going to keep going for a little while. Now, something that I've noticed about both of these, however, is after they get to the optimum temperature inside, it starts to regulate, which means it does not continuously draw that amount. So what it does is it gets all the way up to the peak temperature, which in the RoadPro is 300 degrees and in the Hot Logic is 165. Once it gets there, it just has to maintain that. So it doesn't necessarily have to be pulling and pulling and pulling on that power to maintain it. Instead, what it does when it gets there is it kind of backs off. And then when it starts to dip down below that, it draws again. It has a regulation that way where it's not just continuously pulling on your batteries. And therefore, you are getting the most bang for your buck when it comes to both of these devices. I really like that both of them kind of do that. And it's something that I've noticed. Now, if you were just driving down the road and using your alternator of your car and your cigarette DC ports to be able to figure this out, you wouldn't notice this because you can't track the power consumption. That's why we always test things on power stations, because even though I typically do use these things while I'm driving down the road, I can use them in the van with the power, but I need to know how much power that they pull. So I'm hoping this is also helpful to you guys. Now, what are some of the other things that I have learned about these two devices? First and foremost, if I am going to go on a hike, and I know it's going to be a decent sized hike, and I want to be able to eat a hot meal when I come back, this is perfect. The average time that it takes to heat up or cook something in the Hot Logic is a little bit longer. And so because of that, I can easily have an entire adventure, come back to the van, and then have a hot meal. If I am wanting to eat something that is going to be more immediate, this guy right here. Now, when it comes to raw meat cooking, I do prefer this one right here because it does get up to that higher temperature, and so it doesn't take as long for me to be able to eat. For example, a roast. I could cook a roast in here for a few hours and it would be great. Almost double the time in this guy right here when it comes to cooking meat. I've also tried to cook chicken in both of them. It will cook the chicken. It does take a long time to do it. I definitely prefer this one, and in order to make it even faster, I use one of those oven bags to pull in the heat and keep it in place, and then in about half the time of this one, I can have chicken. I'm going to set myself a good alarm for 15 minutes, and then we'll check these. Now, I realize if you're watching this and you're saying, oh my gosh, you're going to open it in 15 minutes. That's not going to do any good because that's going to let the heat out. Yes, that's what testing is about. Literally, that's what it's about. Until you get used to your device and know how long something takes, you almost have to do this because neither one of these has a thermometer where you can see the internal temperature on the outside. It just doesn't exist. So I would say that for sure that would be the one thing that I would criticize about both units is there's no way for you to check to see inside or to get that internal temperature. If there was like a little window where you could just look at it, that would be helpful. Or if there was like a little thermometer, thermostat, that would be great. But I do understand that that also would make the prices of these go up, and a lot of people would not love that. Speaking of which, let's talk about where you can find these. First and foremost, you can always find these on Amazon. In fact, I will attach some links below so you can check them out again. But one of the other things that I've noticed is that they do have them available in some other places. For example, pretty much every truck stop across the country has a RoadPro. You can go in there at any given time and go to the RoadPro section where you can find everything from electric skillets, small refrigerator packs, vacuums, coffee makers, and the RoadPro stove. That is pretty much every truck stop across the nation because this is one of the leading devices for truckers across the world to heat their food. That says a lot because there are thousands upon thousands of truckers out there every day using RoadPro products. And because of that, it really piqued my interest because I stop off at so many truck stops, which is why I initially picked this guy up. I bought one from a truck stop, brought it back to base camp, was like, let's figure this out. And the rest is history. I've been carrying it with me ever since because I am very impressed by what it's able to do. Now the Hot Logic, they do have at some retailers. They are a little bit more hit or miss. They're not readily available at a large branded truck stop or anything. So the best source for that would be to find it on Amazon or through like Walmart.com and to order it to your store. Those are great ways for you to get those items in a little bit of a faster way, since you can't just physically pick it up and walk out the door with it. We're about 4 minutes into our cook right now, and we've lost 1%. See how it is starting to do the regulation? See how it's going and dipping way down? That's because it has already reached the maximum temperature, so now it's doing that cycling where it doesn't need the full potential of it, but it does need it for a little bit. On this side, let's see, we have lost 2%, and it's doing the same thing. It's regulating around, and you'll notice whenever I first clicked the button, it was in power saver mode, 0% there. So it is lower than it was before. 85 watts is where it's solidly hanging out to keep that maintained temperature. Again, this one is warm. This one is much more warm than this one is. This one is more so warm for sure. The top is pretty chilly still, but the bottom where most of that heat happens, definitely warm. Not so warm that I can't touch it though. So we'll check in when the alarm goes off and see where we're at when it comes to our French bread. Okay, we have ended the timer and here we go. We're gonna look here. This started out as 100% and now it's at 96, so we lost 4% of the battery. This one started out on 53, I believe, and it's down to 51, so we lost a couple percent there. But the real question is the food ready? So it was in there for about 2 minutes before I set the alarm, so that means altogether 17 minutes. So let's see. We're going to start off with this one because it's the easiest to open with one hand and also the one that gets the hottest the fastest. So touching it, it is definitely not quite ready yet, but it is melting the cheese. It is starting to get more malleable, so it's not done. Now it's time to open this one. Need both hands for this one because of the zipper. So let's go inside and find out. When you look at it and touch it, this part is still very cold, very, very cold. Now, if I lift this up, the bottom is very warm. However, the cheese is not starting to melt or anything in 17 minutes. It's still just kind of there. So 15 minutes there, which means that altogether we will be about 32 minutes into a cook on this. Now, usually whenever I make the French bread in the RoadPro, anywhere between 20 and 30 minutes is pretty good, depending on the level of cold that it is when I put it in there. If it's completely frozen, it's usually closer to 30 to 40 minutes, completely frozen. But if it is kind of thawed like it is now, usually 20 to 30 minutes. So I figured that 32 minutes is a good number because it should be done by the time that this alarm goes off. Now, I don't expect it to be finished in the Hot Logic at this particular time, so we'll probably have to add at least 15 to 20 more minutes after that, but we'll see. We'll give it the benefit of the doubt. Timers are going though, so we'll check back in just a minute. Starting off at 51 and 96. I think you can see though, the power consumption on these is not terrible. Like just to lose a couple percent in 15 to 20 minutes is not bad. If I was using my air fryer, it would definitely have dropped at least 10% by now. Just saying. If I was to use the Instant Pot, same thing. It would lose a considerable amount more than these are. These are going to get it to a different temperature set, thus the energy need is less. So that is a good thing about both of these, is you can cook pretty much anything in them in some capacity, and it uses a far less amount than, say, a bigger cooking device. Okay, almost time. So let's check the power. First here on the Jackery V2, 94%. We started off at 96. So altogether, we have used 6% to get about 32 minutes into this cooking. Over here, we are at 50%, meaning we only dropped 1 additional percent in the last 15 minutes. So as you can see, the regulating of these two is pretty solid. Gonna start over here with this guy, and ooh, I definitely feel and see steam coming off. The cheese is nice and melty, and the crust is getting to that yummy crispiness that is perfect. I am excited about this one for sure. Oh yeah, that's hot to the touch. That is ready to eat. Now the real question is this one? Again, I don't think it will be, but we're gonna check it out. We'll see It's not releasing the same feeling of heat. It is warmer than it was before though, so let's check. And it's getting warmer, but it is not warm yet. I can feel that it is attempting, but there's still, like, this part is still cold to the touch. So, timer 20 minutes. And let it begin. I'm going to go ahead and turn this off because we no longer need to power it. It made it down to 94, so 6% of the battery to cook the French bread using the RoadPro. And now we're going to see how much of the battery it takes overall to finish out this one. Again, as of right now, this one has consumed less power, but we still have to get it cooked. So it's probably going to be around the same in the long run, but we'll find out. Now you can kind of see why I was saying what I was. The higher temperatures in the RoadPro allow things to cook faster and also get crispy. So this French bread right here, it's crispy all the way. Like if I were to, like, you can hear that. It gets crispy like it's supposed to be for a nice crispy crust. Everything is done very well, and that's really, really good. Now, I am going to go ahead and eat this, and then we'll check that other one in 20 minutes. But remember, 6%, fully crispy crust, delightful. They were straight out of the same box. They were set in there at the exact same time, turned on at the same time. This one is definitely, in the RoadPro, finished faster. Okay, time has passed and it is time to check it out. Will it be done this time? I don't know. It feels warmer than it did last time, so that's good. We'll check the battery consumption in just a moment, and I need to turn that off. Okay, it's warmer to the touch on top now. So again, this is about 50 minutes into the process. I need to pop the top off of this, and then I need to look. We're starting to get some melting cheese. It is still not done though. It's still not done. Zipped it back up again, and now let's check our power over here. We are now at 48%. Remember, we started out on 53%, so it's not cycling through the power super quickly, but it is also going very slowly on the cook. So I'm going to set another alarm for about 20 more minutes, and I think that in that time I would feel safe eating this, and it should be a nicer internal temperature. To the touch, whenever I was touching those pepperonis, they were still kind of cold. Those were not frozen pepperonis. So this just goes to show that, yes, this will do the job, but as you can see, it's taking at least double the time of the RoadPro. As I mentioned before, both of these can be super handy. Let me explain a good application of why you would want something to take longer. Say, for example, whenever I was on this last trip, I went to the Ron Coleman mine, and I wanted to be able to dig in the dirt all day and then come back to the van and have a nice warm dinner. I was able to start my meal, which was completely rock hard frozen, in the Hot Logic, walk away, go dig for 2 to 3 hours, and then come back to the van, and it was perfect. It was ready to go. It wasn't overcooked. It wasn't undercooked. It was just right. However, if I would have done that same thing in the RoadPro, it would have been way overcooked because it would have cooked way too fast. In fact, a solid frozen meal like that would have taken about an hour in the RoadPro versus the 2.5 to 3 hours in the Hot Logic. I think you can see where this could be a positive in some situations if you have a long adventure day and just want to return to your vehicle and be able to eat. Those are just handy numbers to kind of stew around in your head whenever you're making your selection. Both are great. Both have definite advantages and disadvantages to them based on your style of travel and what you're wanting to use it for. I highly recommend both of them just because I can definitely see the value in each. And I know you're saying, but Bunny, you said that one of them is really slow. Why would you want the slower thing? For the exact reason I just mentioned. Sometimes I want to be able to throw something in, walk away, go on a hike, go dig in some dirt, get into something, and then come back and be able to eat. That's super handy. Sometimes I need that time buffer. So in that case, the Hot Logic is absolutely perfect for that. I definitely like it for that. However, most of the time, whenever I'm just trying to get from point A to point B and I'm driving and I want to heat something up so that by the time I get there, I can grab and go and eat and then move on, the RoadPro is going to be a better bet for me. The RoadPro acts more like a true oven. Whenever you put things inside, it truly cooks everything in a really consistent way. You can bake cookies in it. You can make cornbread. You can heat up frozen meals, or you can cook meat from scratch. RoadPro is overall, I would say, a bigger, better thing for most people if you're only wanting one device. If you are wanting to have two, it works out great because you can have the variation with that time cook. If you are wanting something that you can just heat food up in because you like to take away leftovers, HotLogic is great for that. So that is kind of my assessment of the HotLogic versus the RoadPro. I will be showing you whenever this timer goes off what it looks like. And yeah, then we'll wrap up this video. Okay, time is about to be up. I'm going to go ahead and turn this off. We're going to check our power. We're down to 47%, which means we started out at 53, which means, like we were talking about, it's about the same on the overall power consumption, about 6% of the overall battery. So with losing 6% of the overall battery, is the food finished? That is the main question that we have now. I will say, when I opened it up, it is definitely very warm to the touch. We have built up some steam here, which leads me to believe that this is not going to be a crispy cook. It's not bad. It's not bad. It's holding up. It is melty. We're gonna crunch it. It's still a little bit more moist. It bends instead of crunches. Now, is it tasty though, is the question. It is tasty. There is a little bit of crunch to it, but I think for us to get the full crunch, we would have to be in there for at least 20 more minutes. Overall, about 40 additional minutes of cooking with the HotLogic. Not quite the same consistency of the crunch. Not bad. Tastes good just the same. The product is good. So, can you use both of these? Yeah, sure. What are your desired results? If we did have to leave this in for another 20 minutes, we'd probably lose an extra 2% of the battery. And if we did that, it means the HotLogic wouldn't be quite as efficient as the RoadPro. It is what it is, though. And that's why we do the test here on the channel. I'm going to go finish this up and have the rest of my afternoon to start packing up the van. Remember, guys, we're not here for a long time, but we are here for a good time. And good time means you can have good food in a lot of different ways. Till next time. Bye.